Hey, Pro-Life Jen, welcome back to the Kristan Hawkins Show. Today we're going to talk about the news out of Texas and Oklahoma and the stunning failure of Republicans to live up to the pro-life plank in our party platform. The GOP at the national and state level needs to answer for individuals it has elevated to leadership who immediately turn around and betray the children and women entrusted to them by the voters. We have to have a real conversation. And I have to correct an X post from an annoying celebrity pastor. I'll tell you why I couldn't just keep scrolling when I saw his BS hot take on gender roles. And also, it's a nice excuse to talk about and brag about my husband. So, hope you join me. All right, guys, let's start with the stunning failures in Texas and Oklahoma. And let me set the stage. A bunch of states have moved to protect women and children since the fall of Roe, since the Dobbs decision. That was 3 years ago. Today, more than half of our states, United States, have protections in place for preborn children and their moms from the predators in the abortion industry. But these states, even when they pass pro-life laws, can't actually enforce these protections because abortion vendors are preying on pregnant women in states online and illegally mailing chemical abortion drugs into pro-life states. And nobody is stopping them. In fact, during the Biden administration, they openly encouraged this. The Biden administration's DOJ actually wrote a letter after the Dobbs decision, basically telling the abortion industry that they weren't going to uphold the Federal Comstock Act, which has been in effect since like 1890, and everyone knows it's there. They weren't going to uphold that law that bans the shipping of abortion-related material. They encouraged blue states, pro-abortion states, free-to-kill states, to violate the state laws of free-to-live states openly. Like, talk about anarchy, and this was our Department of Justice, all right? And then when the FDA loosened all of their common sense regulations on chemical abortion pills, not to save babies, because they didn't care about babies, but to save the life of women, that just further opened the floodgates. So there is a law in place right now, today, 2025 America, from 1890, that prevents the interstate trafficking of chemical abortion drugs. However, the Trump administration's DOJ still has yet to say that they will actually enforce this law, and individual states can't enforce it either. However, state AGs attorney generals, do have certain mechanisms and laws they could enforce if they felt like they were going to get backed up by the federal government. And so what we have states that are trying to enforce their laws, but they're on their own. It's like a wild, wild west situation. So what we did this legislative session was introduce sample legislation in a number of states to help give teeth to pro-life states to actually be able to force their laws by saying, if you live in a pro-life state and illegal chemical abortion drugs are flowing into your state, like Texas, then you can enforce civil or criminal penalties on abortionists, abortion vendors in those states who are illegally shipping drugs and violating your state laws. It's kind of common sense, right? Because like that's a whole part of like federalism, and states get their own laws and they're like borders and all that stuff. Well, let me go into it. So 2 of those states were Texas and Oklahoma, where we introduced pro-life laws. These are pro-life states, right? They have moved in the fall of Roe to end all abortion, but we know abortions are still happening in those states because of the predatory abortion industry. In Texas, the law was called SB 2880, the Women and Child Protection Act, and the bill established a civil liability for abortion drug manufacturers or vendors or others who are helping to facilitate illegal abortions in Texas. We believe there's about 13 to 19,000 illegal chemical abortions happening every year. So that's 13 to 19,000 babies who are dying every year in Texas because no one is enforcing these laws. So pro-lifers banded together. A bunch of different groups were there. We were there testifying. We fought tooth and nail to get this bill voted through the Senate with our Senate sponsor, who's a pro-life champion, Senator Brian Hughes. Got it through. Awesome, right? Went to the House. And everyone said, oh, it's going to be easy, right? It's Texas. It's pro-life. We have a pro-life Speaker of the House. Oh, it's going to Chairman Ken King, State House Affairs Committee in the House. And he's always said he's pro-life. Yeah. So let's talk about what happened. Ken King, who's always said he's pro-life to all of his voters in his district in Amarillo, just sat on it, kind of ignored it, pretended like the bill wasn't in his desk drawer. Huge problem. We put pressure, calls, door knocking, all that we could. Our poor pro-life students in Texas, thank you for your hard work. I've seen it. You guys have been working so hard. We've had multiple lobby days there in Austin because Texas is special. Their legislature only meets every other year, right? So if we don't do this now, we have to wait to 2027. That's crazy. The bill died because of a man named Ken King, who eventually, after our pressure, this is the dirty politics that happens in state levels. He eventually allowed the bill to be voted on. And then when there was a deadline, because it was at the end of session, to get the bill to the House floor, because the bill gets voted on, then the bill has to be reported that it was voted on to go to the calendar committee to get on the calendar to be voted on the floor. After he allowed the bill to be voted on so he could get his, pro-life credits because he said yes, right, and letting this bill happen, his staff or him forgot to send the bill to the calendar committee to get voted on to the House floor. Now the session is over and the bill hasn't passed. And illegal chemical abortions are still happening in Texas. 13,000 to 19,000 babies are going to be dying because of a pro-life committee chairman, Ken King. And, oh, by the way, I want to show you this. This was the icing on the cake. The day that was the final day to get this bill voted on the Texas House floor, there was a resolution on the Texas House floor by pro-abortion Democrats to honor the life, just prepare yourself for this, of Cecile Richards, the former Planned Parenthood president who went to the national media and told everybody that David Daleiden was lying and they weren't selling baby body parts, or maybe selling a little bit of them, and lied about everything, is presided over the largest growth of Planned Parenthood ever that killed hundreds of thousands of, well, actually under her watch, her whole tenure, she presided over the death of millions of children. They honored her because she recently passed away from brain cancer. Guess who was standing behind the pro-abortion Democrat as she was honoring Cecile Richards? Ken King. Yeah. Pro-life students in Texas, I'm going to warn you now, we're going to be door knocking when primary season comes up in Amarillo because voters need to know what this dude did. He is not pro-life and he is actively working against the pro-life movement. Hey everyone, this is your show host, Kristan Hawkins, and I have an incredible opportunity for you to make a real impact for life this summer with diapers. On Saturday, June 28th, we're going to be gathering in Washington, D.C. for the National Celebrate Life Weekend, and I do not want you to miss this. We're going to be hosting America's largest diaper drive, sponsored by the only pro-life diaper brand out there, Every Life. Here's our goal. We want to raise 392,715 diapers, one for every life lost to abortion inside Planned Parenthood facilities every year. And instead of just displaying these diapers on Capitol Hill and then demanding that our legislators finally vote to defund Planned Parenthood for taxpayer dollars, we're going to add an additional twist. At the end of our rally on Capitol Hill on Saturday, June 28th, we are then going to give out all of these Every Life diapers for free to local residents in the Washington, D.C. area. This is massive. Defunding Planned Parenthood is finally possible with this new presidential administration and Congress, but we are going to have to push harder than ever before to make sure our legislators, especially those guys up in the Senate, know Planned Parenthood doesn't deserve a single cent of our taxpayer dollars. And I believe this massive display of diapers, one diaper for every baby Planned Parenthood kills every year, will have a resounding impact in the hearts and minds of our leaders, and quite frankly, will be the best way to tell Planned Parenthood to go fund themselves. This event is going to be completely free. All you have to do is head to CelebrateLifeWeekend.org right now and sign up for the National Celebrate Life Weekend Rally. Come stand with me, Abby Johnson, Lauren Mazikia, other pro-life leaders, and be a part of a historic moment and help provide support to families in crisis and need right now in the Washington, D.C. area. But if you can't make it to D.C., I'll try not to cry, you can still make a difference. You can go to CelebrateLifeWeekend.com, and instead of RSVPing to attend the rally, you can donate to our National Diaper Fund. Every dollar you donate is going to go directly into buying pro-life diapers that will then be given up. So every dollar counts. Every diaper matters because every life is worth fighting for. This is our chance to not only show our leaders in Capitol Hill that we are serious about finally defunding Planned Parenthood and ending the slaughter of more than 392,000 babies every year in our country, but it's also a chance for our movement to show what it is that we really do and put our thoughts and beliefs into actions and to deeds by giving out free diapers, hundreds of thousands of free diapers. So please join us at the National Celebrate Life rally on Saturday, June 28th, or donate a pack of diapers that will be displaying on Capitol Hill. Go to celebratelifeweekend.org right now. But wait, there's more. In Oklahoma, we're going to move over to the crap show that happened there. So in Oklahoma, the GOP leadership in the Sooner State also betrayed pro-life voters. There, the House in Oklahoma quickly passed the Anti-Chemical Abortion Pill Trafficking Act, same kind of language as Texas. There was called HB 1168, passed it easily out of the House, goes to the Senate, gets referred, thanks to the Senate, to basically a pro-choice Republicans committee. And we knew this was going to be an uphill battle. But the point we were making to the pro-choice committee member and Senate president was, look, you don't even have to be pro-life to say, look, we should be enforcing our state laws here in Oklahoma. State laws are against abortion. State laws are being skirted. We need to enforce them. Well, a toxic combination of abolitionists, or I call them pitchfork pro-lifers, and weak-kneed Republican leaders has led to the bill being killed. This is what happened. So the abolitionists in Oklahoma, I forget what they call themselves, Abolitionists Rising Oklahoma, whatever, worked with a senator who has some really interesting public statements on a lot of issues to attach an amendment to our pro-life bill, which we were already knew it was going to be a debate to get this bill through the kind of this pro-choice leaning Republicans committee, to criminalize women and put women in jail who had taken chemical abortion pills. Our bill wasn't focusing on that. It was focusing on criminalizing the act of sending the chemical abortion pills. They had put an amendment on the bill, which we knew when they did it, basically they were killing our bill because they knew this Senator Dusty Devers, knows perfectly well that there was a pro-choice Republican committee leader and that she was not going to let this bill pass with criminalization of women. So they attached the amendment, which basically then gave this pro-choice leader the reason not to move it forward. Now, their amendment was voted down because the majority of people in Oklahoma, legislators in Oklahoma, aren't down with, putting women in jail when we still can't end the drug trafficking of abortion, right? So we knew it wasn't going to, actually get attached. But what they did was they gave Senate Majority Leader Julie Daniels, the person kind of in charge of moving the bill forward, who's pro-choice Republican, I would call her. They gave her the excuse to then publicly come out and be like, oh, we're not moving this bill forward because they attempted to attach this amendment to put women in jail. Yeah. Can't make this stuff up. I can't make this up. I can't even write this in an email to our supporters because it's too messy and complicated. So what happened was, instead of getting this bill passed, which it easily passed at Oklahoma House, it was sitting there in Oklahoma Senate, Senate Majority Leader Julie Daniels, who was the pro-choice person, and Senate President Lonnie Paxton intercepted the bill and literally handed a victory over to the abortion industry using the pitchfork pro-lifers' failed attempts at putting an amendment as excuse for why they weren't going to push the bill forward.
Right now, we just got through with meetings where they put bills literally in the last 30 minutes into language, and they're intending to run that across our legislative floor. So let's talk about process. How does this work? There are hundreds of options of bills that they could do. They could run it through a JCAP. They could run it through what's called conference committee. There are tons of options on the floor and available for them to get this legislation right now. So back to process. If they choose not to hear that bill this year, it is not because Democrats stopped it. It is because Republicans in a Republican supermajority who are going to send mailers into your home but to say that how pro-life they are, refuse to hear a pro-life bill. Hold those people accountable. If they're in leadership and will not hear that bill, hold them accountable.
Absolutely.
Do not let them away with this. If they refuse to act on this, and yet spend hundreds of millions of dollars on projects across this state that they are literally drafting now as you and I speak. So I'm begging you, don't let them get away with it. Because if they get away with it now, they'll get away with it next year. And that cycle never stops until you and I make the stand that we've got to make.
The bill passed the Oklahoma House 77-9. It passed the Senate Health and Human Services Committee by 7-3 vote. All they had to do, Senate Majority Leader Joy Daniels and Senate President Lonnie Paxton, all they had to do was take this bill and put it on the Senate floor for a vote. And they know, as well as I do, it would have passed overwhelmingly. And it would have stopped illegal chemical abortions in Oklahoma. I'm so proud of Senator David Bullard, who fought hard and tried every legislative alternative option to get this bill on the floor. At the end of the day, it wasn't because of Democrats. In fact, Senator Bullard at our press conference there in Oklahoma City said, quote, "If Oklahoma can't stop chemical abortion pill trafficking, it's not because of Democrats, it's because Republicans chose to act." And he couldn't be more right. As this morning, as I'm recording this podcast, I was reading an article about what happened in the Texas legislature, and they literally said the Texas GOP made a political decision not to advance the pro-life law. And that's what happens in Oklahoma. So Students for Life America and Students for Action are going to be back in Oklahoma City next January, ready to take action and drive this life-saving bill forward. And we're already, dusting off our boots for primary season because voters need to know. This obviously doesn't make me a very popular person, but this is why what we do at Students for Life Action is so critical, because we're engaging in a fight that literally no one else is engaging in. And we have to hold Republican leadership accountable. Why? Why do we have to be, mean to our friends? Because it's spineless Republicans who are allowing abortion to continue in our country. And if we don't act, if we don't hold Republicans accountable, we're never going to win Democrats over to this issue, which, by the way, we'll know we've won when we have Republicans and Democrats introducing pro-life legislation, tripping over themselves to introduce pro-life laws and to be the leader and co-sponsor on pro-life laws. That's how I know we've won. But if we can't get Republicans to do what's already in the Republican Party platform, to do the will of their voters in very red, Republican, conservative, pro-life states like Texas and Oklahoma, we're going to have a big problem. Because these leaders at the state level, the Senate President Lonnie Paxton, Senate Majority Leader Joy Daniels, I can almost guarantee you have higher aspirations, have aspirations for statewide office or national office. And so if you don't convince leaders at the local state level to act, to uphold the Republican Party pro-life plank, which, used to be stronger, but it's still there, thankfully. If you don't do that, we will create an entire farm team of pro-life legislators who are weak-kneed on life. And we will go back in time to how it used to be in the early 90s or in the 70s, where Republicans were actually pro-choice. Then where will we be in Washington, D.C.? The only reason we're seeing success right now, we're seeing momentum on defunding Planned Parenthood, on Capitol Hill, and the budget reconciliation process, is because we have convinced, we have worked, we have shown Republicans for decades that we're serious and we mean business when we say defund Planned Parenthood. And it's taken the entire 19 years of Students for Life of America's existence to get this point driven home on defunding Planned Parenthood. You know how long I've been talking about defund? I literally have pictures of me pregnant with my 16-year-old son, holding the first ever defund Planned Parenthood rally, hosting it in Washington, D.C. with Dr. Alveda King and other Black pro-life leaders. I'm so old, I remember the first defund Planned Parenthood bill that was introduced in Congress by Congressman Mike Pence. And I worked with his staff on that. That's how old I am on this. That's how long of a process it took. We cannot afford to go back. The Republican Party is the pro-life party. And if an elected official in that party doesn't act like it, it is our duty to tell them to get the hell out of the Republican Party, that they are in the wrong party. There's plenty of pro-abortion political parties they can join. Go and join those parties. Because what good is it to have a Republican Party that acts like Democrats when it comes to this issue? Doesn't serve us well. I mean, this is our challenge on the House of Representatives. I've been talking to you all, right? We have a very slim majority in the House of Representatives right now. And, we were working so hard in May to see the one big, beautiful bill get passed because we have about 20 pro-choice Republican House of Representatives members. Some of them are openly taking money from the abortion Goliath and the abortion industry and are openly hostile. So we got work to do, guys. We got work to do. If you're in Texas and you're in Oklahoma, I'm sorry, prepare. We're going to be door knocking in primaries. We're going to be educating voters. And this is our duty to do this. It's our duty to do this. And we are, and I do not say this pridefully, we are the only national pro-life group doing this work. Why? Because it doesn't win you any favors. It certainly doesn't make you popular. But it's so important because let me go back to South Carolina. South Carolina, I talked to you all about earlier this spring, how we were introducing the Life at Conception Act that was going to end all abortion in South Carolina. As you all remember, they passed a heartbeat bill a couple years ago. We were proud to support that, and then just got upheld by the Supreme Court. We should have had the votes in South Carolina. We didn't because the very pro-life Baptist Speaker of the House of Representatives, which it was everyone telling me that I was being too mean to him because he's the most pro-life speaker ever, Speaker Smith, didn't let the bill come forward because his, House Judiciary Chairman Wes Newton didn't like the bill because it didn't have exceptions for, babies conceived in rape, because apparently we should be killing anyone if they are not conceived in the most ideal circumstances. I got all kinds of calls from pro-lifers, from Christians in South Carolina. We're being too mean to the House Speaker. It wasn't his fault that the Judiciary Chairman wouldn't bring up the bill. And there was nothing you can do. Bullshit. If you're the Speaker of the House, you control everything. You appoint the committee chairman. So when your committee chairman doesn't do something you want to do, you can be like, listen, you either put that bill up for a vote and you let it go through, or I'm going to replace you. You have all the power. Okay? All the power. So I got calls. I was being too mean. I wasn't being nice enough. It was too mean. Yeah, you know what he did on the last day of session? We had a Hail Mary pass where we were attempting to get like this all vote on the Life at Conception Act. We knew it wasn't going to get through, but we attempted it because for the babies, we have to try. I'm morally obligated to always try, right? And you know what they did? They voted themselves in a nice big pay raise. And as of this podcast recording, and I'm confirming this, we believe they refunded Planned Parenthood in their state budget. Yeah. This is a Republican state, supermajority state in South Carolina. Hey, Pro-Life Jen, are you sick and tired, like me, of funding the abortion industry with our tax dollars? This is why Students for Life Action has just announced a national campaign for the month of May that I need your help with. Defund Planned Parenthood through Congress's budget reconciliation. Yes, that's the name of the campaign. I have another can of Celsius to come up with a better name. This is the deal. In the next few weeks, we have a critical opportunity to convince the House of Representatives to defund Planned Parenthood of all taxpayer dollars in the new congressional budget. Now, reconciliation is a little different than like a normal vote that you need from Congress. Remember, you need like majority vote in the House, and you kind of need 60 votes in the Senate because of their cloture rule, the rule that ends debate on the vote. Budget reconciliation is special. You only need 50 votes in the Senate, which we have. So we've got to get the House to defund Planned Parenthood and their budget, and then send it to the Senate and have the Senate defund Planned Parenthood and their budget as well, and get it voted on with 50 senators and the vice president. Go to studentsforlifeaction.org/defund right now and sign up for 2 unique opportunities. 1, Dial to Defund days. These are days where we are calling on the pro-life generation to call your U.S. senators, your U.S. House Representatives member, and I want you to do it multiple days, telling them you're paying attention and you demand that they defund Planned Parenthood, the nation's largest abortion vendor of our taxpayer dollars. 2nd, you can sign up to join me and the Students for Life team in front of U.S. senators' offices in just a week or so, where we're going to be demanding, praying, and delivering a letter and sort of demanding in our prayers that the U.S. Senate moves to defund Planned Parenthood. So to go to studentsforlifeaction.org defund. Sign up now for our Dial to Defund days and also our Pray and Lobby to Defund days in front of congressional members' offices, in the district offices, which are near you, I promise you. Make sure you do that right now, studentslife.action.org/defund. All right, speaking of idiot men, let's talk about what Pastor Mark Driscoll, an Arizona pastor, he was famous. He was a pastor of Mars Hill Church in Seattle. He got real big, had a book, and then there was like all kinds of allegations or whatever. And then he like lost his job and he ended up starting pastoring in Arizona. So occasionally I go on X to see what people are saying about things. So Pastor Mark Driscoll has this tweet. A Christian man who doesn't work is worse than a non-Christian. This includes you stay-at-home dads. I was really busy when I read this tweet and everything stopped because I had to respond. This tweet is everything wrong with the conservative movement's current conversation about men, women, and families in 2025. Everything wrong. Because first of all, you're assuming work has to deal with money, right? He's assuming that for a man to be working, he has to be making money. Like, I know there's an Old Testament verse everyone wants to send me. It's like, there's a biblical verse about men working, blah, blah, blah. Does it say actual money? Doesn't actually say that. If you want to go by actual scripture. And then if you're a Protestant, as Mark Driscoll is, like sola scriptura here, let's go by what the Bible says. This is a shocking statement. I mean, I've been getting sick of this rhetoric we've been seeing from conservative males. And now I've seen some conservative female podcasters, like I think playing into it for the clicks, of just this trad wife thing, and women should be stay-at-home wives, stay-at-home mothers. That's the best role for women. I don't disagree with many things that they say. I think it's great. It's amazing. It is the best if you can have a parent at home with children. Absolutely. I'm home with my children, working on my home office, right? My husband is home. My husband homeschools our children. But we keep making this statement or kind of showing this generation of young girls that they have to make a false choice between being like a girl boss or a trad wife. Can you be a trad boss? Just asking, because I think I would probably fit into that. What's wrong with that? Is there something biblically wrong with living out a mission that I know specifically God has called me to save lives and help promote and usher in the end of abortion? Men and women should collaborate as husband and wife on the rearing of their children and taking care of their families. And you can serve God in a lot of different arrangements. I happen to live in an arrangement where my husband is so dedicated to seeing our family thrive that he stopped working as a school teacher to homeschool our 4 children and be the primary caregiver for our 2 children who have cystic fibrosis, because we knew that was best for our family. That was best for their health. 1, I would not be a good homeschooling mom. I don't have the patience. Just ask my staff. I was the magister of Latin for 2 years and I had an open rebellion. 2, someone has to be here. And we knew putting our children in any school setting, public or even private setting, was going to open up our children to more infections, CF exacerbations. It took sacrifice on our part. We had this, I literally just got a second car after like 12 years of us being a single car family, right? We had to get a smaller house. We had to make concessions about our vacations. We had to make choices, but we were able to do that. And I want to tell you right now, it's hard for a man to make that decision. But I have a husband who loves his family so much. He is sacrificing his career. He's sacrificing, he would say, probably his sanity. He's sacrificing things that might be natural to him to go out and earn money to stay home for his children, for his wife, so his wife can continue to live out his mission. This statement is to say that my husband isn't a real Christian. He's worse than a non-Christian because he sacrifices, he loves that much, he works in that. And by the way, who is to say that homeschooling your children and taking care of your children isn't work? I think every stay-at-home mom, homeschooling mom in America should be mad about that statement, because I certainly see the work that's happening right outside of my French door right now. My husband's homeschooling my 10-year-old. He's certainly working. He's been up as long as I've been. It's everything wrong. I would ask you guys, when you start to see this conversation happening, to start speaking into it online. Don't just, I guess, buy into it. Or it's almost like people are doing these things just for the clicks, right? X has become an increasingly hostile place. It's definitely a very good study in groupthink mentality. It's unbelievable for those who've actually themselves been caught up in scandal, for those who themselves have been fired and were stay-at-home dads for a time because he didn't have a job, to then go and attack others and call others not worse than non-Christians. I mean, it's like Chapel Roan, right? Chapel Roan did that hot take on motherhood a couple of weeks ago where she said she doesn't know any mother who isn't miserable. All of her friends and her parents are absolutely miserable. And there was a ton of backlash in the conservative movement on that. Everyone spoke up on this. Mark Driscoll does this. I'm like, crickets. It's just me. And what's interesting about this, and when I was saying that I've been noticing this trend on social media, I want to show you a screenshot here. I'm going to pull it up on my computer because I'm going to make sure I'm reading it right. So the communications director for, I think it's like the Foundation to Abolish Abortion or something like that. It's one of the Pitchfork pro-life groups. This guy used to work for, I think, the Daily Wire or Daily something. He actually took my tweet about Mark Driscoll with me saying this is everything wrong with the conservative movement. And he did a whole tweet series about how my tweet says it's everything wrong with the pro-life movement. And he said, one of the most important differences between the pro-life and abolition pitchfork movements is the pro-life movement, just wait, ladies. The pro-life movement is female coded, and the abolition movement, pitchfork movement, is male coded. Although women can most certainly flourish in a male-led environment, men simply will never flourish in a female-led environment. When men are elevated to leadership, both men and women prosper. When women are elevated to leadership, men cannot prosper. The longhouse, in other words, stifles men, and much of the pro-life movement, the pro-life world is a longhouse. In the pro-life movement, women are usually leaders. In the abolition movement, pitchfork movement, men are usually leaders. This is evident in the rhetoric that is accepted and the laws that are written. We need men to lead our war on abolition. God designed men to protect women and children. There's not wrong with that. That involves not only ministries of charity and compassion, such as running crisis pregnancy centers, but also mounting tangible threats to evildoers. If we truly want to end abortion, we need both, which means we need men and women, true. But we need Christian men specifically to lead. This is what I was saying a few months ago when I did that whole podcast on abolition, and I said part of these attacks that, like, they were crazy. They're saying, like, I killed an abolition bill in North Dakota I had no idea existed. When I brought up a lot of like videos and tweets and things that I started getting from these pitchfork pro-lifers, abolitionists. And a lot of them were anti-female, anti-woman, just attacking me. I'm saying I'm an evil mother and how I'm an evil person because I'm working outside the home. And I saw some of the comments and folks were like saying things like, oh, well, those are just an exception. That's not what the abolition pitchfork movement is really about. No, he is literally the comms director for the leading group in the abolition pitchfork movement. Right there, out in the open. You can't make this stuff up. I know I should like title this episode like "You Can't Make This Shit Up." Between Oklahoma, Texas, Mark Driscoll, and now this. All right. Well, I wasn't going to talk about that, but I saw that last night as I was preparing for this podcast, and I thought this speaks into this issue. This is so important. And I would encourage you, especially women, do not be discouraged by this. If you feel God calling you to lead in the pro-life movement or lead in whatever it is, go for it. You can be a mother. You can be a wife. You can be a working professional. You will have to make sacrifices 100%. And sometimes your career will suffer because you're doing your number one job, right? Which is raising future saints. You're living out your vocation. And your job isn't your vocation, right? Unless you're working, I would say maybe in the mission field. But don't be discouraged. You can do it. And we can find a way. And maybe, I don't know, I've been holding back because I want to always talk about ending abortion. So I'm careful on this podcast not to go in other issues. Like I care deeply about foreign policy and things like that. And I do a lot of that stuff on the side, but most people don't know because I keep this show the main thing, right? Which is ending abortion, right? It used to be called Explicitly Pro-Life. Now I know it's Kristan Hawkins Show because everyone names their show after themselves, whatever. But that's what it's about. It's explicitly pro-life, explicitly anti-abortion, right? But maybe we need to start, maybe I need to do a better job of having this conversation with you all, that it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be messy, but you can do these things. And don't let anyone tell you, including conservative pastors or pitchfork pro-lifers, that you can't do it. Or if you attempt to do it, you're a bad person or you're a bad woman. Don't fall for that. Yes, we need to have honest. The reason we're in this situation is because feminists lied. Feminists lied to our generation, particularly my generation, about what being a woman really is. And they painted this picture as if being a mother, being a wife was less than having a career. And that's absolutely wrong. We know women are most fulfilled when they're mothers, when they're wives. Those are the happiest women out there, not, making all of the money, right? If you saw the last season of The White Lotus, right? The woman who is clearly in the last season of The White Lotus, there's a woman who clearly does all the girl boss things in Manhattan. She's a leader, blah, blah, blah. And she thought she was my partner, and then she gets dropped, and then she has nothing. Her marriage has fallen apart. Her kids estranged. And I think it's so telling because women were lied to. So we are having, I think, a natural correction there. But we're getting to the point where we're getting outside of reality because for many people, right, having 2-income family is a necessity, especially in the current housing market and economy that we've been left with thanks to Joe Biden. So we can have real conversations. And I think we need to be honest about when you do this, your home life will suffer. When you do this, your work life will suffer. And how do you manage it all? How do you know what your priorities are? How do you let some of those rubber balls, I've talked about my rubber versus glass balls, how do you let some of those rubber balls drop while you focus on the glass balls? That's the conversation I would love to see more people having in the conservative, pro-life world when it comes to women and their place. But don't fall for this. You have to be barefoot and pregnant in your kitchen. And if you're not a good woman. You're not fulfilled. I love being barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. I'm trying to convince my husband all the time to let me be barefoot and pregnant in my kitchen more. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's also nothing wrong if you want to work outside of the home and live out a mission, as long as you have your priorities straight. And that's the key, ladies. That's the key. Sorry if you're a guy. You had a little female pep talk there.
Hey Project Jen, it's Kristan here. And if you're like me, spring is a perfect time to do some spring cleaning around the house. And I can't think of a better way to refresh your space than with brand new, ultra soft bed sheets. Well, it does get better. With bed sheets that support saving babies. That's why I'm so excited to share with you that Students for Life America has teamed up with Cloud Bed Sheet Fundraising to give $20 from every set of sheets you purchase directly to our pro-life mission. These sheets are high quality, ultra soft, and have a 99% satisfaction rate. And yes, I have them in my own home and I love them. It's so easy to be part of this. You head to 123fundraiser.com/life and choose from beautiful colors and the sizes that you need, and then you'll be making impact for life with every set of sheets you buy. Plus, they come with 100% satisfaction, money back, guarantee, so there's no risk, only reward. Shop now at 123fundraiser.com/life and help save babies with every cozy night's sleep you have.
Thank you all for joining the special episode of the Kristan Hawkins Show. It's special because I went into more stuff than I normally go into. Make sure you subscribe and follow along for more discussions like this. If you want to hear from me daily, make sure you sign up for my Monday through Friday daily text that I'll be sending you action items, news articles I think you should pay attention to or be sharing. Just text my name, Kristan, to 53445. And I would love to know, like if you're watching this on YouTube, your thoughts on what I said about should I be speaking more into this conversation of how to be a trad boss. Maybe it's a book. I don't know. We'll see. Who has time for that? I'm trying to abolish abortion here, people. But we'll see. I'd love to hear your comments. Have a great week.